Ask a bank's new AI the exact same question 1,000 times, and you will not get the same answer 1,000 times. In one published test, a single prompt run 1,000 times produced 80 different answers, and the randomness dial was switched off. Now try explaining that to a regulator who has spent decades demanding that a bank's models behave the same way twice. That is the problem nobody put on the slide when GenAI walked into banking. So how do you ever sign it off? So let me break this down from first principles. Long before GenAI, banks already ran on models: credit scores, pricing engines, risk forecasts. And a model that is quietly wrong can cost a fortune. So supervisors built a whole discipline around it called model risk management. The foundational text, the US guidance known as SR 11.7 from 2011, set the expectation that became the global standard. Before a model is trusted, you have to prove it works. And here's the assumption buried inside that one word: prove. Proving it works has a name: model validation, and it classically means three things. You test the model's conceptual soundness. Is it built right and on good data? You keep ongoing monitoring once it is live. And you run outcomes analysis. You check its answers against what actually happened. One more rule sits under all of it. The person who validates the model cannot be the person who built it. Independence is the whole point. Now notice what every single one of those checks silently assumes. They all assume the model is reproducible. Same input, same output every time. That is true for a credit scoring formula. It is not true for a large language model. An LLM is non-deterministic. It samples its words, so the same prompt can give you different text. And turning the temperature to 0, the setting that is meant to remove the randomness, does not fully fix it. Because of the way the chips batch and round numbers, the same question can still drift. The reproducibility that traditional validation was built on is simply gone. So, the fix is a shift in what you are even testing. You stop trying to certify one perfect answer, and you start measuring how the whole system behaves across thousands of questions. You are no longer asking, did it get this one right? You are asking, how often is it right? How often does it wander? And where does it fail? You validate the behavior, not a single output. And once you're testing at that scale, a human reading every answer is hopeless. So how do teams actually do this? They build a golden set, a fixed list of real questions paired with the answers a human expert already agreed are correct. Often, they generate extra test cases synthetically to widen the coverage. Then, every time the system changes, a new model, a new prompt, a new data source, they rerun the whole set automatically and watch the score move. This is engineering practice, not a legal rule, but it is how you keep a moving target honest. But who grades thousands of open-ended answers? Increasingly, another AI does. It is a real studied method, where one strong model acts as the judge. And in the original research, it agreed with human reviewers more than 80% of the time. The catch is that the judge has its own biases. It tends to prefer the first answer it sees, to reward longer answers, and to favor text in its own style. So the judge itself has to be checked. You do not get to skip the human. You get to spend the human's time where it matters. And for a bank, there is one test that matters more than any other. When the system pulls from internal documents and writes an answer, is that answer actually supported by those documents, or did it quietly invent part of it? That property has a name: faithfulness or grounding. And open evaluation tools now score it automatically by checking every claim back against the source. The US standards body, NIST, even lists this kind of made-up answer, what it calls confabulation, as a top risk of generative AI. A confident answer with no source is not an answer. So what does the regulator actually demand? Here's the part people get wrong. No rulebook names a single tool or test you must use. Germany's MA-Risk, in its 2023 module AT 4.3.5, simply says material models must be validated, documented, and built on good data, and it never mentions AI at all. The EU AI Act in Article 15 says a high-risk system must reach an appropriate level of accuracy and robustness and be tested for it. They set the outcome. They leave the how to you. And this is not theoretical. In 2025, the European Central Bank updated its guide for banks' internal models to address machine learning directly, expecting explainability and complexity you can justify. Europe's banking authority has published its own work on validating machine learning models. And the through line never changes. There is independent validation. There is ongoing monitoring because a live model drifts. And there is a named human who keeps oversight and signs. The tools are new, the accountability is not. So if you remember one thing, make it this. You cannot validate a GenAI system the old way, one answer at a time, because it will never give you the same answer twice. You validate the system that produces the answers with evidence gathered at scale and a named human who owns the result. Pass that bar, and your AI can go live. Fail it, and all the fluency in the world will not save it. I turned this into a one-page checklist for validating a GenAI system before it reaches production, and it is free in the newsletter, link in the description. If this made model validation for AI finally click, subscribe, and I will keep turning the rulebook for AI and banking into something you can actually use, one topic at a time. Stay sharp.